Good morning. Been thinking about something new to make, and I kind of want to make a cheese board that has a little divider spot for the crackers. And I have these scraps of wood. This is a piece of box elder. This is the end cut off of a piece of walnut, so the wide spots end grain. So I'm gonna have to figure out a way to slice that up to make it a little more usable. I'm gonna do kind of a sandwich thing, and then I have this live edge chunk of a elm log that's got a big knot hole in it, and I'm thinking that would be neat if I can keep that in there while still keeping it thick enough. That'd be cool, like a little thumb hole. It might work out. Not sure if it's going to or not. We'll see. You see as we go along. I have no design plan up for this. I'm just gonna start chopping up wood and see what I can come up with. But before we do that, since these pieces are so small, I really need a good way to keep it safe, so I don't end up doing that again. And these do not work well for doing that. So I got this little template here. I'm gonna use this old piece of really bad plywood and cut up a better push stick, which will keep my hand up out of the way, and it'll keep more support that way. And then if I have to, I can still use one of these other ones. I made these out of old milk jug caps. So let's get to chopping. And that's why I always check to make sure your speed is correct. I had that going way too fast, but I stopped, slowed it down, and now it's cutting really good. It never fails, no matter how hard I tried to set up my jigsaw square. Every time I cut it, I get an angle on it. So here I'm taking the belt sander to clean up that angle and get this fairly flat, just so my hand's not leaning one way or the other when I'm using this push stick. And now that I've got that pretty flat, I'm just going to go and knock all the sharp corners off all the way around, and do a little light sanding around the finger hole there, just so it's a little more comfortable. Oh, I got a little spot there where my jigsaw, where I missed the line, and I had to go back and back up, so I got a little jagged part there that I have to sand off. All right, well, that's that. It's not pretty, but it'll keep my hand safe. Whatever you make, just make sure it's strong. And that it'll keep your hand away from the blade. And it'll push the piece of wood you're trying to cut. So let's get into figuring out what to do with the rest of this wood, and see if I can come up with what's in my head, see if I can put it into practice. I'm just setting the blade here so it's just above the halfway point, so the blade doesn't come up and stick out above the top of the wood while I'm trying to cut this little tiny piece of wood. That way I can cut one side, flip it over, cut the other side, and hand's way safer that way. Okay, now for the box elder. I'm going to cut all the way through this one. It's a little bit bigger piece, and my hands won't be as close to the blade. Just trying to get rid of the live edge portion of it and make some square it up so I can make some slats for the sandwich. And now I'm just cutting up the little slats that I made to even them up so they're the same size as the walnut. And then I will end up making two pieces that are taller. For an idea I had on the sides, you'll see that turns out to be a mistake later. So, yeah, learn as you go. And now I'm setting up to make those taller side pieces that I was talking about that I really shouldn't have made. But yeah, and here I'm getting really close to the blade, and of course, me being the genius I am, I didn't lower the blade and cut these in two passes. I did them in one, which is really dangerous, so don't do that. Okay, just setting them up, making sure the grain patterns of the walnut are correct from side to side. And then I take the electric hand plane to get them pretty smooth for the glue up. Just using Type Bond 3 here, since it's water resistant. It's what you use for cutting boards and stuff that you plan to get wet. It's actually, they say it's exterior grade. I've never used it for anything outside, so I can't say if that's true or not. But I just slather on a little bit of glue, put them all together, clamp them up, and set them aside. Man, I was squeezing hard. I was grunting pretty bad. That's hilarious. Alright, well, this is all glued up. I'm going to have some work to do with it when I'm done. For one, I didn't think about with this ridge here that I designed in to hold the crackers. I don't have enough room to get in there to flatten all this out because it's not level. So I'm probably going to end up having to power carve that with a angle grinder and kind of make it a dish. And but I'm not sure yet, so we'll see with that. So now on to trying to flatten this. I'm going to try to use a hand planer and get it down flat on one side, and then I'll run it through the thickness planer to flatten out some of this backside. I don't know if it's going to work, like I say, because it's got this knot in it, and we'll have to work around that, but we'll see what happens. It's all, like I say, it's just all flowing out of my head as it comes, and we'll see what happens. Okay, well that took a little bit of doing. Gonna have to do some epoxy to fill in a hole that popped out while I was doing it. Gonna have to wire brush the live edge. And I may end up having to take one of the live edges off so I can attach the part that's going to hold the crackers. So, but I have to wait for that to dry. And I won't bore you with showing you mixing up epoxy, because I'm just going to mix a little epoxy, put some black pigment in it. Maybe. I'm going to look for some other colors, but I'm going to put some pigment in it and let that set up overnight while the glue hardens on the other part. And then tomorrow we will get back to it. So see you tomorrow in a second. All right, it's the next morning back in the garage. And I decided to go with gold, put some epoxy in here. And what I'm going to do is the thickness planer is still set up for this thickness. So I think if I just run that through real quick, it'll take off that epoxy and it'll make it easier for sanding. And this is out of the clamps, it's all glued up. But you can see the sides I was talking about earlier, everything shifted when I was clamping it up, and I didn't do that great of a job on accuracy when I was cutting it. I was just kind of eyeballing everything. I thought I would get it. I didn't. So I'm going to have to level that out. Now, because of these, I can't get anything in there. So that's why I say I'm going to have to power carve that, and I'm going to make it I'm gonna give it a radius and dish it out. I think that'll look cool anyway. But I'm not sure if I'm actually going to try to attach them together somehow, because the more I think about it, the less I think it's going to look good. I just don't think the two pieces will look good together. So I think I will leave them separate. And besides, I really like the shape of the live edge. Like I said before, I have to wire brush this and get it all cleaned up. And I have to do some hand sanding in here. There's some rough edges, some sharp edges. But I really like how that works as a thumb spot for carrying it. It seems like it gives it a little bit better grip. So yeah, let's get started wire brushing this off before we do anything else. After wire brushing this, I found some pretty good cracks. I don't know if you can see those. Some pretty good cracks in here that I'm going to have to fill with resin and let that cure again. But since it's early enough in the morning, it'll be cured by later today, and that'll give me time to work on the other section of it. So let's get back to work. Well, that made a mess, and I'm not sure I dig it. I left it, I was thinking I'd leave it kind of wonky, so it kind of matched the live edge pattern, so, you know, I didn't try and do anything smooth. This isn't even really smooth. But there's a small dish in there. I'm not sure how well it would hold anything, and trying to power grind this with a 120 grit disc on an angle grinder just ain't cutting it. This walnut's way too hard. It's just, I can't do it any more than this. I don't have any more discs. I'm not going to buy one because, like I said, I'm not sure if I even like this. So I'm going to continue on after that epoxy dries. I'll continue on with that, and I'll keep thinking about this, but I don't think I'm going to use it. This may have just been a waste, or I probably won't waste it, but it might end up getting used for something else. I'll plane it down, make it flat, and then use it for a pen holder or something on a desk if this ends up not working. So we'll see what happens. I'm just taking the angle grinder here to knock off the majority of the epoxy. I'm really trying hard not to hit the wood too much because I want to keep the natural coloring and staining of the live edge. There's some spalting on there, and I'm trying to keep it as best I can. Doing a little bit of hand sanding here to get rid of the tool marks from the angle grinder and smooth out the rest of the epoxy. I'm sanding here. I started 100 grit and go up to 320 grit on both sides and on the little cracker well that ended up not being a cracker well. We'll see at the end what I ended up doing with it. Doing a flood coat of mineral oil on these, and then let it set overnight, and then I came back the next morning and wiped all the excess off, and then I applied a coat of my homemade board butter, which is just a 50-50 mix of beeswax and mineral oil, and then I let that set up for a few hours, and then came back and buffed it off, and I think they ended up looking pretty good. Putting on some little plastic feet onto the bottom of this piece here. I just hold them up so that they're right on the corners, pre-drill the hole, drive the screw in. Being careful not to over tighten it because I don't want to split the wood now that it's done. All right, Finally done. Here's the board. The gold in there didn't show up very well. You can see it in here in these cracks, but it doesn't show very well. But now I know that 24 karat gold colored pigment works well to fill holes on elm. It doesn't contrast very well, so it blends, which is a good thing to know. It's a small board, but it's got this knot hole in it, which is a very comfortable thumb hole. So when you carry it, it's a little more secure. I kind of dig that. And then this, I'm going to show a little clip here in a minute. It actually turned out, it works really nice as a wine bottle holder. I think it would look good sitting on your counter and put a bottle of wine in it and let it sit. And it would probably hold a couple of apples or something like that too. So, I don't know. I've been making this stuff to sell later in the year for raise some money to do some Christmas shopping. Here's one that I showed a video of oiling. And this one I showed the video of oiling. This one's got some nice spalting in it. Pretty nice sized board, live edge. So, well, this video is way longer than I normally make my videos. So if you stuck around to the end, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a like. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And see you in the next one. I'm going to be starting a series here soon of making condiments and sauces. I'll do one a month of making those. And the first one I'm going to be making, I haven't decided. It's going to be either basil or homemade mustard. Fermented homemade mustard. So stick around, subscribe, see what I do. Thanks. Bye.